America, awake, America, before it is too late, before the chance has passed away to keep the great republic that our fathers died for many times. Let's keep our country free. The time is short, the hour is near. Throughout our mighty land, the godless foes of liberty desire to take command. The evil tyrants walk a path of bright and bloody red. They vow they'll never stop until all free men are dead. America, awake, America, before it is too late, before the chance has passed away to keep the great republic that our fathers died for many times. Let's keep our country free. The force so evil yet so strong relentlessly drives on, enslaving more men every day and aiming for our own. A nation so preoccupied by pleasure and prestige can't long endure, and just as sure will be brought to its knees. America, awake, America, before it is too late, before the chance has passed away to keep the great republic that our fathers died for many times. Let's keep our country free. A sweet and peaceful slumber, so full of dreams so grand, cannot fight the enemy, the real threat to our land. Yet we go on our careless way, the appeaser's cry we heed, afraid to stand for what is right, wrapped up in fear and greed. America, awake, America, before it is too late, before the chance has passed away to keep the great republic that our fathers died for many times. Let's keep our country free. We stand alone, the world today looks to us to see if we will rise and triumph for God and liberty. So patriots from all our land, don't wait till time is gone. Let's rally round our country's flag, the victory must be won. America, awake, America, before it is too late.
Well, Resby, why don't you welcome our viewers who are staggering in on this notable evening. So tell them what we're here for.
We are here for the next couple hours to discuss Georgia Championship Wrestling, a subject about which some of our listeners know a great deal. Many of our listeners know nothing at all, but I can assure you is greater than basically everything that made this country great can be described by Georgia Championship Wrestling in the 70s and 80s. Georgia Championship Wrestling, of course, part of the National Wrestling Alliance. It was founded by Paul Jones. Basically, everyone who ever came through there, went on to be, quite a big star. Let's see. Let's read through the owners and the years of ownership. So Paul Jones from 1944 to 1974.
Tell people why this is
Jim Barnett to 1974 to 1983. Jack Briscoe, 1983 to 1984. Jerry Briscoe, also 83 to 84. Ole Anderson, a person close to my heart, 83 to 84.
Okay,
Vince McMahon purchased
tell the
it in 1984.
why this is relevant. Tell them. I mean, you're on a tear because you're morally offended by something that has to do with this debate. Please explain it.
Well, we hear a lot about, on one particular day in January, a couple of years ago, some of our great brethren were just totes upset balls at the desolation of these sacred halls and temples of democracy. But I would argue that to film a presidential debate in the same television studio as Georgia Championship Wrestling is the abomination of desolation of studio television. I have rent my garments.
So
they are rented.
That's the venue. Same venue.
Correct.
So in a similar vein, let me show you another sort of synchronicity thing. On I-75 and 40 on the west end of Knoxville, which I have to drive past this every time I go to church, there was an adult store, if you know what I mean, and it closed down, and then it reopened as the Trump Superstore.
Is this Christian nationalism?
I'll get a picture of it someday, but it's not real convenient to.
I mean, I've seen a number of them. So, anyways, where we left off, Grady Odom owned Georgia Championship Wrestling from 1990 to 2020, and now it's 2020 to present. Chris Nelms, although, I mean, NWA currently has some small internet usage. I always felt like they had a much stronger program despite not having a national televised deal. So, let's see. Shall we run through the list of heavyweight champions?
No, you've run off the week already. So, let's hear another song before the debate proper, the depravement of the debate gets started. I don't know, because of some configuration I've got here, I can't see what time it is, but we'll figure it out. So let's hear song number 2.
I'd like to tell you people the story of my life. I've been through all the ups and downs of happiness and strife. You've marched on through the ages, fighting for my cause, to make each man an equal part and uphold all my laws. I was born in Philadelphia with the signing of a pen, with the wild ride of Paul Revere and 1,000 fighting men. I have a pledge of allegiance that holds forever true, and my banner stands above the rest with its red, white, and blue. They say the ladder of success is difficult to climb, and through the course of my events I've slipped from time to time. But yet I've never fallen, I've always passed the test, because of people just like you in the north, south, east, and west. I was born in Philadelphia with the signing of a pen, with the wild ride of Paul Revere and 1,000 fighting men. I have a pledge of allegiance that holds forever true, and my banner stands above the rest with its red, white, and blue. I've had a lot of presidents, Washington through Ford, but the real one watching over me is our great almighty Lord. He's kept my farmlands fertile, He's kept your freedom strong. He helps us know the difference from the right and from the wrong. It's getting late and I must go, the time just seems to fly. But I have one thought to give to you before I say goodbye. The land you come from matters not, whether big or small. You're all the children of your Lord, He cares about you all. I was born in Philadelphia with the signing of a pen, with the wild ride of Paul Revere and 1,000 fighting men. I have a pledge of allegiance that holds forever true, and my banner stands above the rest with its red, white, and blue. And my banner stands above the rest with its red, white, and blue.
Resby, have you ever heard a drum machine that good?
No. I mean, you can... I wish
that was moving.
I wish we could get the make and model of that synthesizer.
Yeah, it slapped. I think people your age say that slapped.
I think people my age, ironically, I think that even goes. I think that's even a little younger.
Okay. Well, I never know. So I think we got. I know there's a big delay on this thing, this debate. They have not a 7-second delay, but a 2-minute delay because they think Trump is going to give away the nuclear codes or something. but we'll play our other song during a commercial. I think there are only supposed to be 2 commercials for the debate. But let's just go ahead and speak to a couple of our friends before we get started. And we've got this man represents non-voting establishmentarians. Are you with us, Reverend Glazer?
I am here, and I am ready to tell you, just like Mr. Brewster, to spend your money elsewhere and make use of wisdom.
We're going to, if at any point the Christian Prince is in the room with us, we are going to notify us of that.
Well, the Christian Prince currently is above my right shoulder. If you can see him attached to the wall there.
He showed up stag to this party.
That's right. You should see his feet on the other side of the wall.
I wish that I wasn't recording a show right now, because Stephen A. Smith and Adam Carolla are sitting right next to each other on News Nation talking to Chris Cuomo. That's never happened before, as far as I know.
Well, I don't know.
To quote the prophet of the Ozarks, what a country.
Well, I'm going to have the debate in my left ear and you all in my right ear. So if I begin to shake and exhibit symptoms of distress, that'll be why. So,
Ben, what is your favorite match from Georgia Championship Wrestling?
The Battle of Atlanta.
Heck yeah. All right, we're cooking now. It's going to be a good show.
One of my earliest memories is seeing Rowdy Roddy Piper at the mic on Georgia Championship Wrestling.
So
was that when he broke the bottle on his head and cut himself open?
More than likely.
Yeah.
I watched it on a scramble channel, and the audio would come in great, but you couldn't see it real well.
Theater of the mind. So I think the rules of the debate are such that we're not going to have any actual wrestling tonight, but we can hold out hope. So for our international listeners, I don't want you to be confused. Our presidential candidates represent the best that we have in this country. So just don't think anything otherwise. It's a privilege and an honor.
Out of everyone we could choose, we truly found the best. That's what you need to come away with knowing.
All right, let's bring in our friend Mary. Mary, are you there? You're not very political either. So tell us what you think about what's going on in the old country today.
I think I stopped paying attention 2 months after Trump was in office. I was sort of over all the stuff we knew at that point about him and women. So that was sort of it. I checked out. I do happen to, though, firmly believe after several interviews with Madeline and her husband that all we're going to...
Someone needs to turn down their background because apparently the debate is starting and it's cutting in.
Is it you?
No, it's not me.
It's me.
Okay, well turn your audio down. But anyway, it's beginning.
Yeah.
So one of the ways this is going to work is that people are going to watch for a while and then they're going to come on and tell us what they've heard or seen. I'm not going to be able to follow it real closely. But we'll have other friends joining us and see if Resby, are you able to see the debate and the screen and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I can see it from, I've got a nice little angle here. Will the volume come off 0? I don't know. We'll have to see.
But we'll see. You can always turn the volume down if it begins to intrude.
Yeah, I'm listening to it like you.
Right. And there's no studio audience. Some people said that could hurt Trump because he plays off the crowd. So, my wife had a good question. When they have these breaks, do they have separate bathrooms or is it just whoever gets there first?
Thankfully, I I think thankfully both of them are wearing protection tonight.
Brought to you by Depends or the Equate
Undergarments.
Walmart store brand. Oh boy, yes, we're proud of what we got going on here in the country. So a content advisory. I may put some Twitter feeds up on the screen, and you might see something you don't want to see, but that's part of the. It's just part of what happens online. So let's see what we've got on the old debates 2024 hashtag. Oh, there's a. So
Starting out strong.
Yeah, see, it hasn't even really started for me. I've got a delay. So there is like I have a mute button here where I can mute Resby. I should have earlier, but I didn't. The moderators will have that at the debate. So who knows what that'll happen. Someone says Biden is robot walking.
That's true. His left arm is moving with his left leg, and vice versa. Perfectly natural motion. Nothing you need to be alarmed about. This is how everybody walks.
Or should.
My goodness.
It's presidential, right?
Great walking. Some of the best walking I've ever seen.
That's right.
Many people are saying. Tapper said load.
Yeah. Whatever the opposite of Al Capone's vault is, it's this.
Wait, this show or this debate?
This debate.
Okay.
So this will actually be a great treasure that we'll remember forever.
That's right. It's almost too much.
So you have to tell us what you're reacting to, Ben, because you're ahead of us. You're on broadcast.
Facial expressions are worth every moment. He's talking right now about COVID and about
eyes are closed. He's long eyes closed.
Injecting bleach in your arms.
Uh-oh, we got the squint going. Biden
take a drink. He said Scranton.
He doesn't look great so far.
No, the cocktail is not taken.
So, Mary, you're in the medical field. Do you think they give Biden something to juice him up?
No, I think actually Biden has arthritis. He walks as if he has arthritis. And Trump actually appeared as he's really, really trying to look big and confident. But yeah, the other thing is that as you get older, your mentation just sort of slows, So I think these guys are probably really, really well rehearsed. And I think they're going to have a hard time saying things off the cuff like they used to, like a decade earlier. You just can't. It just doesn't. Your cells are all slower. Everything's, they probably have had a nutritionist preparing them.
Trump drinks 40 Diet Cokes a day. I mean, he's literally the most he's on a diet constantly because of it.
Trump runs on complete aspartame.
Well, but he likes those taco salad bowls from Trump Tower too.
Do you think he realizes you can eat the bowl? or do you think he's just ordering them because he thinks it's fun?
I bet he puts the bowls in the dishwasher and reuses them.
It's a very, very bright colors on the set. The more muted reds and blues have been in vogue for a good while, but there's a lot of saturation on the.
Biden looks like he's had a TIA in the past.
Yeah. That's not a. Okay,
This lighting is doing their
He
skin
reacted
tone no
quickly.
favors.
Yeah, Biden didn't look good, but he did react quickly. Uh-oh, a cough.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. They've done something to his eyes as if he has like bigger contacts in or something to make his pupils look bigger. I mean, his irises look bigger.
Trey Anastasio from Fish did that in the early 2000s, but I'm pretty sure he had to get sober from those.
Do you know what I mean, Resby, where you can buy contacts and put them in your eyes to make your irises look bigger?
Oh, I watch a lot of professional wrestling. I'm well aware of affecting the eyes in special ways to change the eye color. The tribal chief, head of the table, the big dog, Roman Reigns did so for many, many years as well in the most recent WWE WrestleManias.
I have a feeling I just asked the wrong question.
You asked the right question, actually.
I was like, what is he talking about?
Well, yeah, don't try to figure it out. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't help to try really hard to figure out what Resby's saying. I think we know this.
I don't know.
Now, so everyone says that, Trump wins tonight if he's just like not crazy, if he's sort of nice and restrained. And I think Biden, does well for himself if he doesn't fall over. I don't think he's going to make a lot of sense probably, but yeah, we're in an amazing place. We really are.
I'm just excited about the new Shane Gillis material we're going to get out of these debates. I mean, it's just going to be.
All right, so we have a real American historian from a great American university with us at the moment.
Aww.
Dr. Hart, are you there?
I am.
And you're somewhere you're in the old Methodist compound, right?
Yes, in Massachusetts.
Yeah, you've been on the show enough. We know where you vacation, and we know where you are.
But I'm still getting over General Assembly, so just got in last night.
It is. There's the cat. There you go. So what do you make of this spectacle so far?
I'm not watching, and I don't have a way to watch, although I don't, and I generally don't watch debates. I feel like it's all theater, and I would rather.
Whoa, hot take, Dr. Hart. Hot take.
I'd rather read about it the next day. It's like the movie, the Whit Stillman movie, Metropolitan. There's a character in there who says he doesn't read novels. He only reads literary criticism because then you get the gist of the novel and you get the literary critic's perspective. So I kind of feel that way about these, even about presidential speeches. I don't really care for the State of the Union addresses and all that. I will show them in class sometimes.
Is it more or less degenerate to watch, say, the NBA draft or a presidential debate? Like one.
It depends on if you're stoned or not. If you're stoned watching the NBA draft, it's more degenerate.
Can you tell us more about these stonings that you're referring to?
About the what? Sorry?
The stonings that you're referring to? I want to hear what substances you're using for these.
No, I'm just
imagining.
I'm just imagining. But I'm also talking to Presbyterian who may, now that it's legal and all.
Not in my neck of your backyard where
Really?
I'm watching you live as we speak. No, it's this is another Caucasian Gary clinking around in the glass, and I bought a fresh bottle of Kahlua today, and
There you go.
no matter what, it's going to be a great night.
I have a historical question, Dr. Hart. John W. Davis is my third great uncle. And do you think he would do a better job in this debate currently in his state, 6 feet underground, than the two participants?
Probably not. I mean, there wouldn't be as much theater there with a dead guy walking or dead guy talking.
It would be a miracle. It would be a miracle.
I mean, what I've wondered is if we should have the debate with AI for each candidate. Just, you could imagine what each candidate would say. So AI has a life of its own, and why not just let AI conduct the debate? I mean, there were people, a guy I listened to a lot, his podcast, John Ziegler or Sigmund Freud on his Twitter handle, who didn't think there were going to be presidential debates because there weren't any primary debates. And I guess the question is that the Biden campaign felt that they needed to prove something, so that's why they went ahead with it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have. But
he's foundering. They had to cut him off.
Wow.
Well, for those of you watching, Biden doesn't look good. I think this was a bad choice. As you said, Dr. Hart, you didn't think there would be any debates, or someone didn't. There probably shouldn't have been, because this is not a good look for our top executive.
That's surprising.
It's
I would
hard
have
to
thought
watch.
45 minutes in would be more when that would happen, because whatever they shot up AOC and Jamal Bowman for their little campaign appearance last weekend, I would have thought would have worked on President Biden for at least 45 minutes, like at the most recent State of the Union address, where he came out really strong.
Dr. Hart,
is it off color to speculate about whether they were giving President Biden for the State of the Union a pill that is blue?
Oh, well, I don't.
I mean, they gave it to a 1996 presidential candidate.
Anyway, Chortles, you were going to say something?
As an historian, I don't know if you've ever read the book about Churchill by his personal doctor from like 1940 to 45, Lord Moran, and they kept Churchill going with speed and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
and a doctor was with him at all times.
Right.
Yeah, Viagra wouldn't like that, because Viagra makes it so that your blood vessels dilate. So that would actually take your blood away from your vein and add more pooling in the body. So that would be less cerebral perfusion. So you wouldn't really aim for that.
Well, we've cleared that up.
I have no idea, because I've never used it.
This True Confessions night on in America.
But if you mix it with cannabis, what happens?
Then you're high.
We have two drug references so far.
Yeah, it's degeneracy here.
They should do a contest, like just pack a lip full of like 12 milligram European Zins, and whoever pukes first wins, or whoever pukes first loses. That would be good television.
He's having to focus really hard on Trump.
Yeah. Well, he keeps losing the strength in his neck. He keeps kind of doing the sundowner look. Right now, Trump's defending states' rights on abortion, going through each individual state as they voted over the past 2 years on state abortion stuff, and he's going through the positives and negatives of that.
That's a really good White Russian I made.
It's
using
human flourishing.
Powdered creamer or real half and half?
I actually used heavy whipping cream tonight,
Ooh.
so
Oh, wow.
it is a delight to the senses.
But how much do you use for that? I mean, I would not want it too creamy, I guess.
No, I may have been overserved on the other two portions.
My goodness, Resby, who's responsible for that?
I am my own bartender, so much like Jack Torrance in The Shining, I'm just a victim of my own imagination here. But
Aw,
we'll see in
thing.
about 30 minutes how heavy my hand was.
Are you able, when you take a sip or more, to actually have it linger on your mustache the way the dude did, and then
You have a mustache, Resby?
My wife has never seen my upper lip, so
That's the secret to your success.
it is. Many flavors have been savored, may still be savoring there, including this White Russian. So it's, it's probably about time for a little trim, but for now, it's potpourri.
that's not going to be a good smell in 40 years. But anyway, enjoy it while you can.
Exactly. If there's one thing that preserves well, it's dairy. It's one thing I've known.
So
So,
far,
Chortles, have you ever done this before on one of your podcasts? Done a
No.
debate live?
No,
We've
we
done
did,
an election night live.
We did
You
the
were there.
election, and we thought
Yeah.
we called it wrong too, didn't we?
Oh no.
It's
Yeah.
it's the worst. It's the worst bad beat of political gambling ever. Was Joe Biden could have made my money back on Joe Biden. Didn't take it. I could have bought my family a dinner with that.
Aw. What about Cheetos, Resby? Do you ever eat Cheetos and have issues with that staying around?
No.
I just
I
think
think
on April
that's
Fools,
about
like,
as-
the number one thing I want to do on April Fools is just like throw a bottle of glitter at you to see how long it would take for you to get all the glitter out.
As long as I could shake it off in your living room, I will let you start the stopwatch.
No, we're talking spray glue. That's not a thing. I don't allow people to win that easily.
The glitter is probably the most forbidden substance in my house.
I won then. Thank you.
All right, so there's no fireworks or histrionics so far.
No.
A lot of animatronics, though.
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
my.
it's interesting. Biden just said, if I'm elected, yeah, as if he's unaware that he's currently elected.
Aw.
Well, I think we all get confused.
Ooh, he's making the
from
finger
time to
guns,
time.
though.
We all get confused.
So, do we really think that the abortion issue hurts Trump? Or you'll probably move to the middle on that and try to downplay it. And that's what they're talking about now.
You know, Trump's abortion position has actually hurt him with the more right part of the party.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I tend to think that the economy and immigration is still
Yeah.
is so pronounced for the majority of voters. Not to say that that they don't add those other factors up a certain way, but it seems to me really difficult for the Biden administration to walk away from the economy as far as the cost of living increases, at least, as well as the difficulties created by immigration. But
Yeah, I was telling my wife if the election's going to be decided on the economy and immigration, Trump wins. But who knows what'll happen over the summer, in the fall? I still have a
Right.
hard time believing that Biden will be the Democratic candidate in the end. Wouldn't surprise me if there's already a plan, but I feel there is no plan.
Somebody said on Twitter, I don't remember who, but I read it right before logging in, was like, there's a reason this debate is so early. And that would be, you have time to find a suitable replacement if you need to.
Right.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that theory, but it does make sense.
But that would be surprising then why the Biden administration or Biden people would go along with that. Although, because in some ways, if they needed to prove that he was still capable, that this would be a reason to do it. But, and let's not discount campus protests, Palestine, Gaza, Israel, Hezbollah. However you come down on those matters, and I think it's I don't know. I mean, given the dispensational background to a lot of evangelical Protestants, that would be very pro-Israel, obviously, duh. But I think that's a really difficult situation for the Biden campaign. If you lose support among Jewish Americans, I don't know. See how that's a good look for them, and even to sort of try to make some kind of statement about the current protests. I mean, the protests, I guess, are behind, except that they do continue to break out in certain ways in places like L.A. over the last weekend, and it really is maybe I'm the oldest person here. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime in the United States.
Well, it's a lot like the 70s, though. The early 70s, 68 through 72 or 3. There's a lot of similarities here, and I don't think protests help him.
But was there the kind of violence directed at Jewish Americans?
No, you're right.
That's what's surprising. And again, it could be overdone. The videos, et cetera, need to be put in context. And we have more access to many more views of these matters now, thanks to social media and our recording devices, which we call a phone. But it's still, and for what it's worth, I listen to the commentary podcast, so I'm getting their view, which is obviously sort of, I wouldn't say one-sided, but it's pretty partisan, but I also think it's reasonable. But even some of the other podcasts I listen to that are generally pro-Israeli, not Christian, and they're not Christian, but it seems to me this is just a really amazing period since October, what the United States has seen, and what the far left, or however you want to identify them, what they've been up to. And again, I can't see that playing out well in the electorate.
Now, Dr. Hart, do you think when people come back to school in August that we'll see it flare back up, the campus protests and stuff, or is it kind of depends on what happens with Israel and Gaza in the meantime?
It could also depend on what happens at the Democratic National Convention, which is going to be in Chicago of all places, which is just, if you think about, for the young people out there who don't know what happened in 1968 in Chicago, when you had Chicago police engaging in serious busting heads of protesters there. And I don't know how that played out in the 1968 election. I wasn't old enough necessarily to follow that then, but I do think that's a factor. And depending if Israel starts to go after Hezbollah in the north, that could also be another reason for the protests to come back. And the protests seem to be funded by a lot of wealthy NGO activist types. I don't know why they would necessarily change their position now as opposed to what's been going on. They don't seem to be calculating electoral politics at all. So I could see it coming back, and the weather would still be good. Part of my theory about protests, whether police protests or now these current protests, I don't know. I don't see a lot of protests in cold weather. I mean, I could be wrong, but the George Floyd protests happened over the summer of 2020.
But it might be good to prevent another pandemic because we know you can't spread COVID at a protest. So that's a good thing.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm gonna check you out. You're a film expert, Dr. Hart.
Please don't oversell me that way.
No, he's watched Avengers like 4 times.
You got a degree.
You're setting me up for a fall.
Can you name the movie about the media that was set at the 68 Chicago convention?
I can, because I taught a seminar on 1968 and assigned it. If I'm thinking of the right one,
it's
Medium Cool.
Medium Cool, yes.
It's a great movie.
When I was a young journalist, you can imagine why that was of interest to me.
I mean, for those who haven't seen it, and I do, I mean, did you like it, Brad?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they shot it on location during the riots, even though they didn't orchestrate the riots at all. They just kind of used what was going on in the city with the protests, the police brutality, etc., as a backdrop for what they were shooting. It really is remarkable what they were able to do, and it's actually still a good movie. Aside from that, it's not just a device or technique, but
so it does feel kind of like that in the country today. But of course, in those days you had 3 networks, and you only knew what they wanted you to know. And now everybody is a broadcaster. So that I don't know that we get any more truth than we used to, but we certainly get a lot more angles than we ever did in those days.
Well, let me throw this out, if I may, co-hosts. Do you think evangelical support for Trump is weakening? Especially now that he's a convicted felon.
Oh, no.
You know who else was a convicted felon?
Yes.
In a kangaroo court.
Yep.
Remind me.
Many such cases.
He wasn't even prosecuted for cutting the ear off. One of his buddies cut a guy's ear off, and he was
Peter, Paul, Jesus. Yeah, Jesus.
Mark,
MLK.
I see what you did there.
The insurrectionist.
Yes. Now the Maccabees, that's a different story, I think. But yeah. No, I think we know that only 19% didn't vote for Trump. So you're talking about margins of a small percentage, not any big shifts in that. Could
Kennedy peel away some of that support?
Well, I don't even know how many states he's on the ballot. Right. I see a few bumper stickers for Kennedy in my area. It seems like maybe one was on
one.
Maybe one was on a Tesla.
I saw a campaign sign somewhere. Where was I? It wasn't in this state. It was Columbus, Ohio, which I
Huh.
think is one of the states he's not on the ballot in.
Huh.
So great job, Ohio.
Is it too late for him to get on? I mean, are the slates, the ballots closed yet? I don't know. I should know. I guess I don't teach politics though. So
Yeah, I largely lost interest in that because the mainstream media pretty much did Kennedy in. I think there was a hit on him, not the first of on the
Not
family.
even the second.
If you can't laugh about assassination, what can you not laugh about?
I mean, the first three letters alone.
Yeah.
he came to. I don't know if I said this on a previous Presbycast, but RFK Jr. came to Hillsdale in 2023 for one of our CCA conferences. This was on Big Pharma, and he played very well with those people who eat the red meat of conservatives. But he wasn't playing to that audience. And I thought he was pretty convincing about the way in which government has been captured by big pharma, et cetera. And I think it was after that my wife and I watched Dope Sick. I guess it was on Hulu. Pretty, about fentanyl and all that. And it's how true or not it is, but it's pretty devastating to think about how that all transpired and the way government dropped the ball. Not unlike the way they dropped the ball with the so-called Great Recession of 2008. But I was pretty impressed with Kennedy. But was also striking, I was teaching a course on modern Ireland, history of modern Ireland. So I had a lot of students in the class of Irish descent who identified with Ireland in some way. And none of my students, or maybe only 2 out of 20 or so, actually knew that RFK Sr. had been assassinated. They, of course, knew about JFK, but they didn't know about RFK Jr. and they really didn't have a way of connecting RFK Jr. to his father. And I think
This is what happens when you stop teaching Forrest Gump in schools. Is that the kids don't learn these important facts about American history.
Yep.
Tell him.
But I think there was a real missed opportunity with Kennedy in some way in '68, which the country never had because he was killed. But I mean, I have a poster of Nixon bowling on my office doors, and so I do, out of deference to the Big Lebowski. But
America's greatest president, by the way.
I still think Nixon,
America's most voted for president.
I think Nixon was a actually very good politician. I would disagree with him on a lot of things, and of course, he had a bad exit from the office. But I think if Kennedy, you needed somebody in the Democratic Party, I think, who was moderate to sensible to steer the country through that difficult process. Even back then, the elite institutions didn't trust Republicans. And it's really hard for Republicans to govern in that kind of setting. So I have wondered of late what Kennedy presidency might have done, but didn't happen.
All right, since you actually are sort of like me, where you just look at it and it's a big spin game to you, do you have a lot of opinions about who takes office? I don't look at one over the other and say ooh, that looks so much more attractive. I'm just sort of repulsed by both of them.
That's probably right, but I mean, I do think I am worried about government overreach, about the agencies, about the swamp, or whatever you want to call it. And I don't think presidents can change that. That's the difficulty we're in. I don't think either. I don't even think a Trump presidency will do much to put a dent in that, without, say, Congress also getting involved. And I don't know that the leadership in Congress, whether Senate or the House, is up to it. So, and I think we saw with the only Trump administration so far, how difficult it was for Trump to govern. Aside from him being not a good guy, but just the kind of opposition that he faced from the different agencies of the government. And I think it was useful to see that in a way, but it's also incredibly discouraging. And I don't know where we go from here. Short of some kind of civil war, or which I don't really want. I don't own a gun. If we go to civil war, I'm toast, I think.
Josh knows.
You don't need to broadcast that fact, Doctor. But you're not near enough that Ben can drive up and help you on short notice. Okay, so we got young master Tory with us, representing Big Data or somebody. So how are you, Josh?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
So I had some children who were not going to bed on time, and it looks like we have a couple candidates that probably didn't go to bed on time either here in this debate. At least one of them looks very tired.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm catching up.
Oh no!
I think he's already napping. So,
well, I'm in the non-gun toting section of the conversation, so I was paying attention.
So, just if I may intervene, I don't know you, Mary. I think I've heard you before on this, and I don't know you, Josh, although I think I may have heard you before on Presbycast. But where are you guys, and who are you, and why are you here?
Who are you, Josh?
That's the Admiral Stockdale question.
That's right.
A ruling elder in Austin, Texas at Redeemer Presbyterian, PCA. I'm a thorn in Brad's side.
Oh, that's not true.
I wondered with the beard if you were Eastern Orthodox.
No, just lazy and able to look homeless at my place of employment.
Thanks. Mary, what about you? You're Brad's friend, what it says on the screen, but
I am Brad's friend. Josh knows me. I write Josh. And Anil Joy, is that the way you say it, Josh? And Anil Joy? I don't know. But
her name's Elena, but yeah.
Elaine. Okay, sorry. But some people know me because Brad, what am I supposed to say?
Just you're a member of a PCA church, and we've had the occasion to work on some things together.
Yes, Dr. Hart. I was abused both in my marriage and by my church, and when I was looking for help, I had to look, 1,500 miles away for a group of guys on Twitter to rescue me from my session.
Okay. Thanks.
You're
What
welcome.
part of the country are you in?
I am from Los Angeles, but I am physically in, what am I supposed to say? Tucson, Arizona. And I like the Redwoods, which is why it's always my screen.
Sure.
And this has nothing to do with the debate, but this is going to be of interest to people. You grew up in John MacArthur's church.
I did. I grew up progressive dispensationalist, and I went to Grace Community Church and literally had no idea what the term grace meant until I read a book for dispensationalists by some guy. I can't remember what his name is. Nobody talks about him anymore. But he wrote this book to dispensationalists and told them that they all needed to be saved. And I read it, and then for the first time, I understood what grace was. I didn't really understand. Like, it's sort of a work sanctification thing. Like, you get saved, and then you better perform to like prove how godly you are. There's a lot of people that believe that in different sections of Christian society, that you have to meet their standards in order to meet their approval. So.
Yeah, Dr. Hart knows about that sort of thing. So, Josh, as a younger guy, how do you view this? There's a lot of boomer hate out there. I don't know if maybe Trump, I guess he's a boomer. I guess both these guys might be. No, they're too old, right?
Trump is, Biden is not, from
Okay.
if I recall.
So anyway,
yeah.
the boomer hate is overdone. But Josh, as a younger guy, what do you make of what we've got in front of us here?
Without seeming too simplistic, I think we have the result of voting for the lesser of two evils. We've got two men in front of us who are probably the worst representations of their party that we could have, and they're definitely, in my opinion, not individuals that a Christian could wholeheartedly support. I see Benjamin don't vote in the chat here, and I think that's kind of where I am in this conversation. Yes, I am young. I'll be 38 in October, but I don't foresee myself voting in this presidential election, and I don't anticipate encouraging anybody to vote in it either. But I think pastoral wisdom and guidance probably still plays a role. There probably is still a better candidate to vote for, which I think Christian conscience needs to lead to. But as a younger man, I think I've become disillusioned by the vote for the lesser of two evils presentation.
Wait, Josh, you wouldn't have voted for King Cyrus? Come on.
I didn't see him on the ballot.
Okay, all right. I'm kind of kidding, but kind of also not. But
For as long as I've been alive, I remember my mother complaining at every presidential election that there had to be somebody better. So this is not new.
It's not.
Now, Dr. Hart.
This is the most important election of our lifetime.
Yes. Dr. Hart, your friend Minkin had thoughts on this, so this would be a good time for you to give us a little Minkin on democracy or whatever we've got.
well, boy, I think he would have been very cynical of both candidates. He would have had a lot of laughs. I think he would not have been afraid of the results, even though many people on both sides are afraid if the other side wins. Where I might want to push him or ask him at least whether he would course correct is, are the institutions of our government and our society strong enough to endure what could be coming, and not immediately, but in the long term. That's what I do worry about, that the hits that our institutions have taken, and I think it preceded Trump, but I also think it continued with Trump, both because of his own outlook and understanding of, or naivete and inexperience with those institutions, but also the way that the institutions reacted to him. So, yeah, I think Mencken would have had a lot of fun, but I do think this is about more than fun. I don't think it's the most important election ever. Presbyterian, I was at L'Abri in the fall of 1976 when Francis Schaeffer said precisely that about Jimmy Carter versus Gerald Ford.
Wow, you went to Labrie.
I did.
And who was he for?
He was for Ford.
Okay.
Because
I figured, but yes.
Ford had a son who was going to Gordon Conwell,
That's
which is
right.
about
He was
4 miles from where I'm sitting right now. But
Mhm.
that's not exactly good political analysis. His son's at an evangelical seminary. Yeah, vote for him.
Here, let me give you a little time capsule thing. I'm in the 5th or 6th grade, or maybe 7th, I don't know, some 1976, thereabouts. We had the inflation thing going. My dad had just stopped being a basketball coach, and he opened his own business. And across the street from that business was a little convenience store. And I walked over there after going to work with him, and they were giving away buttons. And they said WIN. Do you remember what that stood for, Dr. Hart?
I do not.
Whip inflation now.
Huh.
And I remember seeing those buttons laying there, and they were just giving them away. And maybe it was a Ford slogan, but maybe it was the Chamber of Commerce doing it or whatever. And I thought, I don't think that's going to work. You know, I just even at however old I was, 11 years old, I didn't think that was really going to get it done. So
No, that seemed pretty lame.
yeah,
Almost as lame as what I saw in 1988 when I had a postdoc at Duke, and I was commuting between Baltimore and Durham because my wife's mother was dying, and it was easier for her to stay in Baltimore. But I went to a convenience store, gas station, on one of my trips, and Michael Dukakis, the Democratic nominee, had put together those bubblegum cigars that I guess were a thing back then. And it was Dukakis in 88 or something.
Pink and purple, yeah.
Yeah. It was like unbelievable that they were trying to penetrate the market down there with that sort of thing. Not even a real cigar.
Do you guys remember the huge gas lines?
Yes.
Well, I lived in a tiny town at that time, so I don't remember the lines weren't very long. Everyone could be in the line, and it wasn't very long.
I grew up in LA, so like our gas lines were huge. There was this Arco station at the corner, and the line like slowly worked its way around our house, which was also on another corner. And my sister and I somehow decided that since my parents decided it was Carter's fault, that we should make up a song, and we would go out and offer water to the people and sing this song to them. My bologna has a first name. It's Jimmy. My bologna has a second name. It's Carter. Because we thought it was hilarious.
Hey, that spells Jimmy Carter.
That's right. We knew how to spell because we went to a PCA academy, and we knew our catechism, and we learned our times tables.
All right, Josh, what's it like down in Texas right now? Is the immigration issue for real with normal people?
I don't think I can answer that, unfortunately, because I don't live down by the border. Austin is fairly well distanced from that. I will tell you this: we often pray. My presbytery reaches all the way down to the border, and we often pray for the churches down there as they are ministering to individuals across the border on both sides, as membership tends to wane either way. I don't hear from them a lot of political nature, and that doesn't mean that the politics isn't important, but what I tend to hear from the PCA churches on the border is there's just a great need for the gospel. So unfortunately, I'm not able to answer that question directly, even though I know some of those brothers down there are very much in need of our prayers and support. There's a lot of need down there for men who can bring the word and preach and serve in churches down there, both for those who are native to this country and coming across.
Do you have a sense, Josh, of how many congregations are down near the border in the PCA?
So 6 or 8, maybe.
Yeah, I was about to say you're about to embarrass me for not knowing the precise number. I think it's going to be about 6 all across the border. Super excited for the publication of the BCO in Spanish that was recently announced. That's going to be a very big thing for our presbytery, for us to be able to put in front of candidates who primarily speak Spanish, to be able to write some of those exams in Spanish for them, and to be able to give them the language to answer those questions and address those issues. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that has been problematic for some of our churches, is that the BCO is so technical, and in English it's even more technical. And so having a BCO in Spanish is, I think, going to help us relate and minister to the churches on the border, and give them support in a way that we haven't been able to do in the recent past. But they're all small churches. They're all typically running shy of ruling elders that are needed. It's hard to get guys to commit to the training and serve as ruling elders in those places, or if they are successful men, they tend to move out. So just continue to be in prayer for those few churches that are on the border, and for South Texas Presbytery as we try and minister to the teaching elders who are leading those churches, because it is not a consistent or always encouraging ministry.
Thanks.
Yeah, something came up at a meeting I was at recently, and this goes to the whole background checks issue, Josh. There are some people who are, whose immigration status might be in question, who don't have social security numbers, or don't want to get a background check for reasons that aren't, nefarious or trying to conceal something. But it have to do with immigration status, and that could be, it's not all low end migrant workers. Sometimes there are people who maybe they're married to married to an American, and they don't have citizenship yet. But I'd never thought about that. But that's something, as we look at child protection and some of these policies, that's something that's going to come up. Of course, not everybody has to be an officer or work with children, but if you want to test everyone, that is a barrier to it.
It is, and it's one that at least my work industry is familiar with, which is why fingerprint background checks have become common. And I understand that even broaching that concept and discussion is a whole nother can of worms. And so, we've, at least in the effort that I've tried to make regarding background checks, I've tried not to push specifically for fingerprint background checks explicitly, even though they might be appropriate for some presbyteries to choose to use. I've not tried to explicitly push for those. We did have an overture, as you know, Brad, this year that did explicitly put that in the language. But I think if I could say, the PCA is in a place right now where we're discussing background checks as a reality more in our church courts. Presbyteries are taking it seriously. Church sessions are taking it seriously. And as much as I would have loved to have seen something different occur at General Assembly, I appreciate the fact that I get daily notifications and messages from men who are looking to try and do the best they can in their local presbyteries. And I think that's truly grassroots Presbyterianism, is the men trying to find a solution for their local congregation and for their local presbytery. I'd still do often discourage against fingerprint background checks. That's still just something I'm not ready to cross, but I do realize that that is an issue with regards to individuals who do not have a social security number.
All right, since we've got an ARP and an OPC guy here, I'd like to hear from both Ben and Dr. Hart what they would, how mandatory background checks for church officers would be received in your respective communions. If in fact you don't already do it, I don't know.
Well, we don't do it in ARP, and considering we had 2 dead guys get resurrected at our synod this year, it may not be super effective to do background check guys like that.
You may have to explain this.
Yeah, one of my duties is I serve as synod's bill clerk, and I help with the statistical reports. And we had some fellas' names get put on the wrong line. Because I think they do this at the OPC assembly as well. We read all the names of all the elders who passed away in the year.
I heard about this.
And and ministers actually get full obits read. The elders just get their names, but I don't know if that's a clerical thing or what. But we had a situation this year where 2 guys' names got put on the wrong part of the form, and as I'm sitting up there doing my job, this fella walks up to me with a piece of paper and his name tag and is pointing. And it took me a second, because I'm a little slow, to figure out exactly what he was talking about. And sure enough, I had just announced that he died. And he was telling me that that was not the case. That
you were nice about it, though, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. I didn't ask for verification. I just took him at his word. But no, in the ARP, we do not require background checks for officers. And given the nature of our synod and our distrust of governmental authorities, I don't think it would fly very well in the ARP.
Yeah, I don't.
Doctor?
It's probably similar to the OPC. I don't think we have any background checks. I don't think we have many congregations that far south where that's necessary. Though, if you follow the news of New York State or Boston, you know that there are a lot of migrants coming to the up north as well.
Well, this is just to weed out bad apples who are seeking ordination.
Yeah. I haven't seen anything. I mean, what we're currently debating is abuse and those kinds of, background checks on whether someone has been, had any kind of criminal or allegations against them. I don't know that we have anything in place, though I do think that different presbyteries have adopted policies about that. So that's as far as it's gone. It's gone more to the questions of abuse than the questions of illegal immigrants.
The interesting thing about, the question about the border in the ARP is one of the things that happened in our synod this year is that we reestablished relationship with the ARP Synod of Mexico. And when I was down in Mexico back in February, they wanted to talk about it. I was raised at least decently well enough not to bring up things like that in a foreign country. But they wanted to talk about it. And it was really interesting. They they were very direct in their blame on the United States of causing the vacuum cleaner up north to be sucking people up. And and most of the voters in the ARP Senate of Mexico, voted for the lady Miss Schaumboom, who just won down there. And they were very open about their distrust of the policies up north that they believed were actually destroying the Mexican economy. And so they're very much were in favor of shutting the border off, mainly to keep Mexicans south more than anything else. It was kind of fascinating to hear that from another part of the world.
Right.
Yeah. Ben gets around. He was in Africa, and he's on the Interchurch Relations Committee for the ARP, the way I am for PCA, and you do learn interesting things. And of course, nobody loves interchurch relations more than the OPC, and they are heavily into it.
Yeah.
And
how many denominations now do y'all have fraternal relations with? Has it reached triple digits?
No, but it's.
Are you calling us promiscuous?
You have a lot of friends.
We do. We have an aggressive ecumenicity committee.
Now, it needs to be said the OPC has the best ecumenicity committee chairs and leaders of any of our denominations, without question.
I think for me, like one of the most important things about like background checks for me is that, like, for instance, I was abused in my marriage, and my husband's immediate response to being defrocked by the denomination was to go find a way to find a pulpit elsewhere. And so he immediately applied and has applied ever since. And they, if they had, if there were background checks, they might be able to know that the woman that he's currently with is a felon, and that he doesn't have the greatest background either. So it's hard. It's a hard feeling for me because I don't want that type of man as my shepherd, and I appreciate that the shepherds at my church, within the church, they just have their own background check policy or whatever. But I know that even like I have a friend who had her son was at a church, and the local RUF guy there had become frisky with one of the college girls that he was over, and that church quietly let him go. Just, I don't know how you call it, like defrocked him from the presbytery, and he went to, I think, like an ARP church or like something like that, like just down the road. And because the church wouldn't say anything, my friend personally just went to that church and let them know, like, you probably need to keep in mind that this like literally just happened. And because there's like no, I don't know, like standard to check on things, like that puts certain people like me or that girl like in an interesting situation, except for my church. My church is does their own checks, but I know like his situation probably wasn't reported, so like if they did a check on that guy, nothing would probably come up.
Yeah, I mean, Presbyterianism technically should work and should root out these things, but I know from being a Southern Baptist for a long time that there's probably nothing easier to get away. There's no easier place to get away with stuff than independent churches, which is what the Baptists are. But certainly, we're supposed to check up on transfers and people that come in, and I think that's being done in the PCA these days. And my presbytery our exam committee for transfers and I think licensure and ordination, they require background checks. I mean, a presbytery can do that, and
That's awesome.
I think that's a court can set the standards for its membership, but I think mandating it from the top is the issue that that some people have, and I think some of our leaders even say that if you act like you're hierarchical and top down, the liability is actually more. It expands, and
Right.
and everyone could pay for something that one little part did. But that's a philosophical thing. But I think the PCA generally does a good job with it. So the question is, could either of these guys, Trump and Biden, pass a background check? I'm not sure. I don't think so.
We had a motion.
One we know for sure.
We had a motion on the floor of Senate last year, 2023, to put an age cap on elders and ministers who could serve in active duty. And
That's awful.
The motion was set the age limit at 85.
What?
Now it was defeated pretty handily on the floor, but it certainly raises a question that if men probably shouldn't be serving as elders in confessionally Presbyterian churches, whether or not they should be running a country of this magnitude.
Well, I don't know. Maybe the Bible disagrees. Talks about the wisdom of age, and we've got it right there on the screen.
Well, the Levites had to quit when they were 50 years old.
Yeah. What he said. Their Levite retirement ages. There does seem to be some wisdom there.
Wait, don't you mean
that's more like
400?
Logan's Run than anything else, but.
Well, but they did have to kill animals, so maybe that was part of it. There was a physical dimension to that job. All these guys have to do is be able to walk up and down the stairs to the airplane, and that's harder than it appears. Maybe. All right, for those actually watching the debate, any observations? I'm not seeing a lot of drama.
Just replay everything we already said. I mean, I think the big takeaway from this debate is whatever you think about either candidate, you're probably right.
One of the things that's really helping Trump is that CNN is muting his microphone while Biden speaks. And so you can see him on the split screen saying stuff, but you can't hear it. That was the big thing in 2020, remember, is that first debate, every time Biden tried to talk, Trump would interrupt, and all the old ladies, talked about how uncouth that was. Well, now, CNN's helping Trump out a little bit by, making it seem like he's measured and reasonable.
Well, Biden, I'm watching, I'm not hearing much, but the way Biden is looking off into space is not terribly reassuring. Trump looks mad and grumpy, but I don't mind a grumpy president, really. I mean, you want him to be, but he's engaged, and he's doing the classic Trump grimace now. Yeah, I think I'm behind everyone, but. Yeah, the entertainment value of the debate is not just off the charts so far.
Whose hair is better?
Well, I think Trump's looks pretty good.
Of course.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
I don't think we're ever going to get a better entertainment value than the Trump Hillary Clinton debates. I mean, those were the most magical television. In retrospect, we didn't understand the gift that we were given during those. We watched it, but we esteemed them not.
Well, we have about as many live viewers as we do on a normal show. A fewer, not many fewer. But if you count all the Twitter platforms, we've had at least 759 people check us out.
Huh.
Really?
Yeah, but I think that's because we're bad as we are. We're not any worse than they are.
Oh,
Maybe that's it. So pastorally, Ben, does your congregation knows that you don't vote?
yeah. I mean, it's not something I keep hidden underneath a thing.
But
Yeah,
you still
under a
get.
bushel.
So how do you? What kind of counsel do you give though during
Well, I don't say
election
anything about
season?
this stuff while I'm preaching.
Right,
More
but I mean,
important-
if
more
somebody's
important things to
troubled,
talk about.
if somebody's agitated about the state of the country and the election, what do you say to them?
I
Don't vote
read
like me.
Isaiah chapter 3 and talk to them about rule by children and women and testify that that's where we're living right now. And we are walking in the morass of decades of wickedness and evil come to fruition. And in fact, I can't remember this Sunday or last Sunday. I'm in Obadiah right now, and I said something like about making America great again, and the only way to do that is through the preaching of the scriptures and through the application of the Holy Spirit. And so when somebody comes to me and asks like what they should do, well, that's up to their conscience, of course. There's no binding on that at Bethany ARP. But I usually tell them to focus on local elections and quit worrying about things that are happening elsewhere. You'll affect a whole lot more on the school board than you will in the halls of duplicity in D.C.
Dr. Hart, what's the mood in Hillsdale, the Vatican of conservatism, almost?
Frankly, I don't know.
Highbrow conservatism.
I mean, I haven't been there for 2 weeks, and campus is very quiet in the summer. But
Doesn't that get boring for the protesters on campus?
I mean, it may surprise people despite our advertising. It's just not a very political campus. I mean, there are obviously people on campus, professors, administrators who are connected to certain campaigns or parties. But you have to work at it to find out what's going on politically among people on campus. It's just not out there obvious for people to see. So there are all sorts of different discussions going on. And I guess in my own floor of the office building where my office is, I think a lot of people are kind of like, I can't believe it. We're doing this all over again with these two candidates. And it is pretty remarkable that these are our options for the greatest country in the world, yada, yada, yada. This is what we came up with. But I'll add to that, though, that, I mean, I'm not a Trump guy, although I think there's more to Trump than meets the eye sometimes. If you go back and look at, I never watched The Apprentice, but even you look at interviews that he did back in 2012, and when he was sort of thinking about running, but he wasn't. I think there's actually some likable aspects to the man, but I can't believe that one person has dominated political life for almost a decade the way Donald Trump has. I still don't know how to process that. I mean, I guess FDR did in his era for longer than that, but whatever you want to say about Trump, he has an incredible grip on America. And I don't think we'll be able to understand that entirely 10, 12, 15, 20 years from now.
Well, and he used to be Reformed. Apparently, he used to go to Norman Vincent Peale's Marble Collegiate Church.
Right. So all
And
of you
some,
people, all of you people judging this election by your confessional identity, you've got a Protestant and we've got a Roman Catholic. So what are you going to do?
Well, and again, remember, Trump's mama grew up on the Isle of Lewis and was a free church baptized young lady. So there's at least some bloodline there.
I did not know that. Huh.
I knew there was Scottish blood in there, but I didn't know about the free church thing.
To Dr. Hart's point, when Trump was running the first time, I went back and watched a whole bunch of his prior interviews and even his I don't know what the right word is, but his time before the Scottish Parliament in order to put forth his golf club. And he came off as a very sharp, articulate man. And you can still see remnants of that in how he speaks. He's still very much on point. He's very much on target. He knows who he's speaking to, and he does a great job of speaking to them. But I do feel like there's just a whole lot of confusion now because I don't think he actually believes everything that he's always saying. But I'm fascinated with the man, and I've deleted all my tweets since Elon Musk bought the Twitter, and I was like, I don't want to have all my tweets up there. But I remember a thread of just interaction with pre-political Trump being very fascinated with him as an individual because he seems to be very articulate, very focused, very convinced of what he wanted to do and where he was wanting to go. And there's an element of charm, very much a people person. I think we still see a whole lot of that boiling out of him in these political runs. I'm just not convinced he's actually I'm not convinced that he's convinced of who he's running for. He knows how to run for the group of people that he's running for, but I'm not sure he believes it. So I think that's where I find him just a very interesting figure where he's a great politician, but I don't think he has conviction.
Well, he at one point he told a reporter that, yeah, I'm kind of a megachurch Christian now, and as if that were a thing. But he also meets with he gets a lot of support from the prosperity reconstructionist, Seven Mountains, Dominionist, prosperity preachers, many of whom are females, and he lets them lay hands on him, and you can tell he's really uncomfortable, which he should be. But yeah, I'm not sure he believes anything much.
Wait. How could he be uncomfortable with women laying hands on him? How could that be?
I think it could be some of the things they're saying, which are crazy. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure in 2 Corinthians it tells us not to have women lay hands on us.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way they say it in the United Kingdom, and I'm sure.
Well, again, yeah, that's the connection with Trump and his mom. I'm sure that's how Trump heard his mom say it.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Arizona's
So no.
gonna be a hot place this election. It's going to be like the House, the Senate, the presidency. Arizona tends to fall one side one year, fall another side another year. But we get people from all over the nation that come here to do different industries. So we always have people coming and going. It's sort of not a place you live forever.
No, it's too hot. It's too hot to stay there for long.
That is correct, Brad. Very correct. It is too hot here. I don't know why I'm still here.
All right. Well, Resby, how about how about the state that you live in? What of the Carolinas?
Well, people also do not live forever here. Um,
No, they smoke a lot of cigarettes, so they don't live forever.
Oh my.
yeah, no. North Carolina it's always one of those interesting states, especially if you look at the last couple elections. The state has voted red on all of its senators, voted for Trump each of the last two elections, and yet elected Democrat governors in each of those elections as well, when given the option. So I think I've finally figured out kind of why that last part happened, but I would not be surprised for the state to vote for Trump a third time. However, there's been a lot of people who have moved in since the last time we did this. So Raleigh and Charlotte and all those areas are much larger than they used to be. So we'll see. My particular county, I'm not quite as worried about. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, there are plenty of counties in the South where there's no real reason to vote. The result is predetermined, not by fraud, but by consensus.
You know, it's funny. When I was growing up in West Virginia, from 1928 to 2011, the Democrats held the House of Delegates and the state Senate continually during that entire period of time. And my grandma and my granddaddy, voted straight Democrat ticket from time they could vote until my granddaddy passed away, and my grandma still votes straight Democrat, and she does so not because she believes anything the Democrats do, but because she's still convinced that the coal companies are owned and operated by Republicans, and so she will not support a Republican because the coal companies operate them. But now in the West Virginia State Senate, there is one Democrat. Every other person in the West Virginia State Senate is a Republican. And it's fascinating to me to see the change that has happened in West Virginia in the last 15 years. All of these people who were hardcore bourbon Democrats becoming hardcore conservatives overnight. It's been really interesting to watch that change because it just testifies the fact that they don't really believe anything. They just need a letter in order to get elected.
That's sort of interesting that happened there. My ex was like the great grand something of the vice president of the Confederacy, Alexander Stephens, and he told me that when he was growing up, he had his family was all Democrat, and they all were Democrat because everybody was Democrat back then that was like in the Klan, which his family was. And that as he grew older, somehow the party plans, the party, I guess, beliefs changed. I don't know when that changed, but the conservative, who people thought was conservative, became Republican, and who people thought were liberal became Democrat. And I'm not sure when that happened. He seemed to know because he seemed to know everything about politics and history. But I remember him saying the same sort of thing.
Well, the flip was in the 60s, I think.
Oh.
No, I think that's right.
Oh, you saw the same thing? I didn't.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty accepted. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was born beyond that. I was born in the 70s where it was, I guess, flower child time.
Well, California is always like that, I guess.
Yes.
So, Dr. Hart, you see on the screen we have the translator for Biden. It's
Aw.
Ozzy.
That's fantastic.
That is unfair to Ozzy Osbourne.
Although,
It's funny, having Ozzy up there because Ozzy really started the reality TV show genre. His family show was really the first one out of the gate that led to things like The Apprentice and the Kardashians and all that kind of stuff. It's not often you mention a young man from Brummie being a mover and shaker in American culture, but it's just another thing that we need to be thankful for our good brother Ozzy Osbourne.
I remember when I was still a Southern Baptist. I remember the young pastor at the church. He said we should all be praying for Sharon Osbourne. Well, and I think that's when she had cancer diagnosis or something. But I just thought it's not what I expected to hear at church. But obviously, the pastor was watching that reality show. So
There you go.
there you go.
Her getting cancer meant I missed Ozfest, which was the only opportunity I had to see Ozzy Osbourne live was Ozfest. I think that was in 2000, and they had to cancel all the rest of Ozfest that year, much to my dismay.
If you guys ever have the chance to attend live concert events with the young Reverend here, I strongly encourage it. I've had the honor twice.
Wait, which Reverend?
That would be Mr. Glasser here.
No way. What are you into? Brad's into the strangest stuff. What are you into?
Well, that particular time was seeing Dead and Company. But several minister buddies of mine down here, we're going to go see Megadeth in Charlotte in September, I think.
You were a Deadhead?
Memento Mori.
With
You were
noted evangelical Christian Dave Mustaine.
That's right.
Holy cow.
Another evangelical Christian who also lives in Arizona full time now, along with the original evangelical Christian in Arizona, Alice Cooper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Alice, that's true.
Heck of a golf swing, Alice Cooper. The dude can play some tracks.
There's a internet story out there that R.C. Sproul played golf with Alice Cooper.
Yeah, I've heard that.
yeah, I did too.
But was MacArthur part of the group though?
He was probably driving the cart, keeping track of the bets or something.
The designated golf cart driver. Drinking Fresca. All right, so I'm going to pronounce the debate pretty boring so far. With the 20% volume in my left ear where I can hear it. I'm not scintillated by any of this.
So wait, I haven't heard any of it. Fill us in. What's going on?
Well,
The energy is very low.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Huh.
They're not providing any fireworks. It's coming in very perfunctory. This is not exciting theater.
Well, this bodes well for Trump, though, because his handlers were wanting him not to be a terrible jerk. And I think he hasn't been. So, they thought that was the win, really. And Biden hasn't fallen over. And so that's the win for him. So I think they'll both declare victory in the spin room, and everybody will be happy.
If you can just not be a jerk. Where have I heard that before?
The thing is, they'll probably both declare victory on election night too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a problem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we believe in the sovereignty of God. We know that that He can work all these things for good, and that's why we can laugh at this. I think the people who, I mean, I heard about a young man after the Trump election who, I don't know, he was maybe 20, 25, 30. He cried for 3 days. He was disconsolate, and that's probably the wrong spot to be in. You shouldn't be ecstatic for 3 days or destroyed. I mean, God's got to, he thought it was terrible, thought it was terrible for the world and the country, sensitive conscience and all that. But we should be able to laugh at it. I sort of think, that the Apostle Paul probably had some snark for the civic leaders of his day. I don't know about that, but I got a feeling that he did.
Yeah, I can only imagine the prophet as he went to give advice to Ahab and Jehoshaphat, having a little bit of a chuckle in the midst of that conversation as he looked on to poor, hapless, browbeaten Ahab and Jehoshaphat, who was just poor, too nice, naive, man, and just knew that this was not gonna end well for either of them. But he got to tell the truth, and I'm sure he did it with a smile on his face.
I think the election that meant the most to my dad was Nixon, and that was the one that he felt the most betrayed by because he worked really hard in that election. And I think the election where I learned that lesson was when Bush Jr. was elected and 9/11 happened. And I don't know, my heart got really attached to him and the way he reacted to 9/11. And even though I didn't think I was putting my faith in man, I think my heart sort of latched on to his response to 9/11. And I think that's when I learned my lesson that it's really not about chariots and horses, that God is the one I trust in.
Yeah, it better not be about men, or we're in trouble. That's just pretty obvious at this point.
Yeah, my
it's obvious, but it's hard to actually articulate to the people who are in the trenches for it. So for 2 of the last 3 elections, we just had overlap of our small group who meets normally on Tuesday, and it would be small groups done, and then we turn on election news on election day, after we've done our good godly Bible study, and like the reinvestment in the political atmosphere is automatically re-engaged. And I think it's something that I've tried to help my kids who are nowhere near voting age, but help my kids remember is like we wake up on Wednesday morning and our sovereign God is still on the throne, regardless of who got elected to our petty presidential position. But some of us take it really seriously, and it's a good thing to slowly walk people into it. I agree with you, Brad. You're correct, but getting people to recognize that fact and live in the reality of that fact is a different issue altogether. Like it can be up here, and it can come out of the mouth of your officers and elders. But actually helping to implant in the hearts of people who feel disgruntled on a Tuesday evening on election day, those 3 are different things, unfortunately. I interrupted the good reverend.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I learned early. I was a big Pat Buchanan guy in 1992. And when I realized that the 92 election was rigged on the Republican side, I figured out pretty early that I couldn't trust the establishment. So I've pretty much been checked out from electoral politics, at least since then. Now, Pat was kind of the closest we got to a godly man in office in the last 100 or so years, but that's our loss as a country.
All right, I've got a suggestion for everyone for perspective. Some of our listeners, I know, and maybe some of you, listen to the Rest is History podcast with Tom Holland and I think it's Dominic Sandbrook. The two. It's one of the more popular podcasts in the world. I think it's very well done. It's not fancy. They literally talk about historical things for an hour, and maybe it's a one-off show. Maybe it's a series of 6 or 8 shows on a topic. But they're English, so they sound like they're intelligent, and they probably both went to Oxford and Cambridge, so maybe they are. I don't know. But they're doing a series. There's been one show out, and there'll be another one at least, on what they call mad elections in England. And just in the first one, which I listened to yesterday, I guess, the level of violence and shenanigans up into to the middle and late 1800s even, and we're talking Spurgeon's day, was astounding, just astounding. So subscribe to the Rest is History podcast, listen to the latest episode, and you'll feel a lot better about the United States of America. You may not like it, but you'll know it's been worse, and it's been more violent, and it's been stupider and more corrupt in probably in our country, but definitely in the country that most of us came from. And I was thinking about the decently and orderly, which processes we have as Presbyterians. There was no uniformity in England. People just made it up, and there were abandoned towns where no one lived there anymore that had two seats in the House of Commons, and they wouldn't let go of them. They kept them, and one landowner paid the equivalent of, I think, about $100 million is what it would translate to buy this property because it had two seats in the House of Commons, and it was that crass and that bizarre. So I think that's the best advice I'm going to give. Listen to that, feel better about where we are, and yeah.
I mean, that's a true statement. When you brought up the 70s earlier, we don't have a rash of car bombs going off every 5 minutes. Right. Like it was back then. We don't have near the violence, that we had.
Okay, I got to tell a 70s story. I had a we weren't wealthy, so I'd never had a Schwinn bicycle, but I just had the Huffy or whatever. And but for Christmas or my birthday one year, I got a combination radio horn light thing that you could clamp onto your handlebars. And it was probably maybe 6 by 6 by 6 inches or something like that. So I would drive around this little town of 400, 700, 800 people listening to the radio. And I would just listen to whatever I could get, which was probably AM. And I heard this very alarming news, and I rode home to and found my mom, and I said, this is terrible. The British have invaded northern Iowa. Of course, it was Northern Ireland. It was during the Troubles, early 70s, but I heard it as Iowa, and I thought we were at war again. And I was ready to pitch in and do my part to repel the British who had invaded northern Iowa.
The British Navy has invaded the very coastal state of Iowa.
So,
desirable property there.
Yeah. But
dastardly.
And I think I was shielded from, that we had domestic terrorism in the late 60s and early 70s. We lived an hour from Memphis. You knew about some things that were going on. I remember my dad told me a week after the Martin Luther King assassination, my mom and dad and another couple, they decided they would just go over and do a drive-by of the Lorraine Motel just to see He said, in retrospect, that was a terrible idea, but it just seemed it was our area. Seemed normal to him. The naivety of youth, bad judgment, but yeah. And then of course I had a science teacher who was from Memphis, and like everyone in Memphis, he had an Elvis story. He said that he used to play touch football with Elvis on Sunday afternoons, but he also said he was a National Guardsman. And they sent in '68. They sent his unit to protect the fire trucks, but they didn't give them any ammunition, and they were attacked, and so they hid under the fire trucks, and that was their defensive measure. So when you compare today to then, it's not quite so bad. Although certainly the state of public morality and that sort of thing certainly worse.
But I'm curious to hear you answer, Brad, and also Ben. The recent, it seems like a done deal on women being required to register for the draft. And the PCA has made a statement on that.
OPC has too, years ago.
The OPC did okay. But they're old statements. And it seems like a new founded issue. I'm not trying to say the world's getting worse, but what do you think about the requirement of a new statement about female participation in the military on behalf of the PCA?
Yeah, I don't think the PCA would do it. Or they might just reiterate an earlier one. I don't see that being a big a big ticket issue.
What year it was? It was 2014, I think. The ARP Synod passed a resolution condemning women being forced to sign up for selective service. I think it was 2014. It's somewhere around in there. And there has been conversation in ARP about renewing that in light of current conversations about selective service in the draft and things of that nature.
Well, breaking news. I think the debate's over.
No way.
Yeah, I was going to say that the CNN panel is apoplectic right now.
Yeah,
wow.
so I saw a headline that said Democrats concerned about Biden's performance, so they may be setting him up for replacement.
Yeah. 5 people have talked so far on a CNN thing, and all 5 of them have said, "Oh yeah, Trump's a big liar. We all know that, but we're deeply concerned about what we saw tonight." And
It sounds
one
like a
after
setup.
another.
Yeah.
David Axelrod's talking right now, and he says that the Democrat Party has to do something.
So hello, Gavin Newsom. I think that's where they're probably
going. He was strutting around beforehand.
Yep. This may not be accidental, which we alluded to. Well, it's over, and let's see. I don't see a lot of people in the comments weighing in. We still have roughly as many viewers as we had earlier, but I think we'll probably wrap it up. I'll say that very pleased with our small panel, diverse, and we've got a lady, and we've got an ARP Covenanter who doesn't vote, and we had Dr. Hart. He had to go. World-class historian, and then we had someone from Austin, which is it's about all you need to know. Really, that's all you need.
Just say it,
Right
Brad. You had a lib. You had a lib.
That's
No.
what on earth?
Everything's relative, Josh. Everything's relative. But yeah, so maybe I will put this out as a podcast. I don't know. I think we had enough conversation to make it interesting to a few people, but it was not really meant for that. We were just sort of meant to be an emotional support animal, as it were, or maybe a distraction from the spectacle that we had before us.
Oh, that's
So,
frightening. How many people are listening to our episodes on planes on a daily basis?
So Resby, you're the Presbycast was your idea, you're the heart and soul of it, and the philosopher in the group. So I'm going to leave the final words to you. I think that's the way to go.
Well, great. So if you'll all turn with me to the NWA Georgia Heavyweight Championship Wrestling Wikipedia page, we'll now resume reading through the list of champions, as well as the dates with which they held the championship. So starting in 1963 with Choo Choo Lin, and then we will progress all the way to the bottom of the list with Terry Lawler. So buckle up. We've got a whole second episode ready for you. Plenty of stories. I am disappointed in some who did not come in, who had promised some good tales of what they had watched firsthand when GCW was still on air. So, I'm disappointed in all of you. But yeah, I mean, this was as fun as any time I've stubbed my toe on a stool. So I'm grateful for all of you being here, and I just please don't be an Erdman.
For Purple Mountain Majesty, above the fruited plain, America. God, she had His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea, America.
What's wrong with you people?